this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Had a question lately the other day. Hey, and I get it a lot actually, so I'm making a video for the first time about this subject. Hey John, what do you do about people that's stealing your food? Well, let me tell you, if you're gonna steal my food, you're gonna get the pitchfork. And this is a fiberglass handle, so it's not gonna break when I'm hitting you over the head. Okay, all joking aside. I really don't have an issue with people stealing any of the food here. I live in a nice, middle class neighborhood here in suburbia, in the Northern California, so I'm not like in downtown LA or in New York City or anything. And the other thing, there is some traffic walking up and down my street. It's not a busy street by any means. But the other thing is, most people don't even think about food growing in the front yard. That's ridiculous. You grow a lawn in the front yard. You don't grow food in your front yard. This isn't stuff to eat. This is all stuff to look at to make it look pretty. Food doesn't come from the ground. Where does it come? It comes from McDonald's and Burger King and, all the fast food and restaurants. Wait, maybe it even comes from the supermarket. But it doesn't grow in your front yard. That's ridiculous. So, most people, it's just out of their consciousness, unfortunately, that all this is edible, organic, and actually really high quality. So on the occasional person that comes by that's admiring my garden, and I'm happen to be out here, and I'm out here a lot, tending it, walking around, hanging out. I was out eating lunch today, and they'll make comments on my garden, and they'll say, "Wow, what's that?" And in many cases, I'll offer people walking by free food to bring home. I really like to introduce people to new tastes and new varieties. Last year, I gave some red Russian kale and some dino kale to different people and told them that they could eat it raw. And they were absolutely amazed. They're like, "I could eat this raw?" I'm like, "Yeah, just cut up into small bits and put it in a salad and it tastes really good." And that's because the kale at the store, it's been picked a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and then it's shipped to you, and then it starts to taste bitter, and that's when it starts to go bad. But fresh kale grown organically in the right soil and the soil amendments and rock dust minerals tastes really good. But yeah, I have flowers here, and most people would never think that you could eat flowers. They're just something that you give at weddings or put on a tail for decorations, but all my flowers are edible. And even these flowers are edible, arugula flowers. And so I have arugula here in the front. If people think they could eat this, they could certainly try. Most people might not like the taste. I love the taste of fresh arugula. But yeah, it's all edible, and I don't really have any issues. Now, if I did have some issues, I generally believe people are good. And I have had a couple instances where I've seen some people pick tomatoes. And that's where you're gonna get into some challenges. When you grow some more common crops like tomatoes or even peppers, I think I had some issues with corn, other things that are just really common that people know what the hell they are. Half the people, they don't know what arugula is. They probably never seen spinach growing in the ground, Or dino kale, man, that thing's really weird. It's all crinkled leaves. Yeah, so most people don't know. But if I did have some issues, and I had friends, and I talked to some friends that have, maybe have a busy street, or maybe, lower income areas that people actually eat vegetables in those areas because they don't have a lot of money to buy the expensive stuff, I would use something like this that I put on my arbor here. This is basically hog fencing. It's galvanized, or I would use hurricane fencing around the perimeter of my lot, and then I would actually grow things up that. So actually at the community garden, I have had some issues where some of my food disappears because it's basically a walk-through, a cut-through area, and some of my cucumbers just have disappeared, but it's not like they're stripped. So I tend to plant things that are less desirable, that I don't particularly care for on the boundaries where there's a lot of traffic. So things like green beans, not too into. Fava beans, actually this season I'm planting against the fence, and towards the fences that you can't get to, that's where I'll plant snow peas and other things that I really like. So plant things that'll vine up, that'll fill in, so then people can't see. And actually, if you see this place in the summertime, I have big melon trellis here that you couldn't really even see what I was growing in my yard because it's great privacy. But I would do hurricane fencing or something like this around the perimeter of your yard, so people can't reach in, or they could reach in this far. And plant tomatoes and things out of reach, but plant other edibles to grow up the fence. The other thing I do is oftentimes I'll go around to my neighbors and share food. So when I have bountiful harvest, especially in the summertime, who doesn't love cherry tomatoes? So I'll go around door to door and give all my neighbors cherry tomatoes. I'll also ask them, hey, what's your favorite fruit or vegetable? And, I'll grow a couple plants for them. And the lady over here liked eggplants and things like that. So I don't really have an issue with people stealing my food, maybe because I don't even really think about it. But, if somebody asks or somebody's admiring it, I'm happy to share as long as I have a bountiful harvest as I do with many things. Want to just point out one last thing. Let's come over to this side. And actually, you could work with your neighbors too. So if, they're admiring your food or there's a problem, you could actually offer to farm their land. So let's come over here. And this is my property line right here. This is where it ends, this tall raised bed that has the edging on it. And then if you just go over a little bit further, this section right here is my neighbor's yard. So I talk to my neighbors, and every year they love tomatoes. So it started out by, me having about 20 extra tomato plants or maybe 10 extra tomato plants. And one year I offered, well, hey, can I plant these tomato plants on your property? You could harvest all the tomatoes from them you want, and I'll maintain them and I'll even water them. They said, sure. So I'm gonna do that again this year. We're getting ready for planting the tomatoes out on their property again so they could have lots of tomatoes. But in the off season, I've planted more arugula. Arugula goes really well. We try to keep this all nice and maintained and looking nice, and it's less that my neighbor has to basically mow or weed whack, because this is all basically crabgrass over here. We do need to clean it up a little bit. The arugula has gone to bolt and flower. So this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Hope you've learned a little bit on how I deal with people stealing my produce, which doesn't really happen. So we'll see you next time.